see how this rocks. Alright, hey kids, here I'm back in my studio. It's still a work in progress, you know. Haven't really organized all the things I need, all the things I want to do with it, but it's gonna suffice for now. Okay, so hey, listen, you know, after this little introduction, because I want to show you some things that I collected off the beach yesterday. When I'm done with this, if I put it all together right in iMovie, and I'm actually going to be trying to use iMovie for this because there's things I want to show you in more detail, and I want to be able to, you know, import maybe some sounds and stuff. Just make it a little bit more like a real movie, make it a little bit more entertaining instead of just me yakking in an iPhone. But that's not the case. Bear with me as I begin putting this technology together and getting it up to the Googly Drive or the YouTube, whatever is the most preferred medium to get it out to you quickly and easily and user-friendly. So hey, I made a video where I went down the beach. My wife and I did a nice 4 mile walk probably, there and back. Spent some time on the beach, and while she was collecting sea glass, I started, you know, thinking about some of the things that I like to do, which is, you know, there's a tradition in a lot of cultures for making markers in time, and particularly for travelers, where it's a stone standing thing, and people also taken that concept of standing stones to, you know, think sculptures. Actually, if you ever get a chance to get up to Halibut State Park, up on the other side of the island near Lanesville, there's you know, Halibut State Park is a beautiful place to walk, great place to go up and paint. We've taken some of the students up there in the past, and if you walk around the quarry about 2 o'clock, if you know, not digital 2 o'clock, about 2 o'clock on the face, there's pathways that go down to the bottom, and down near the bottom where the ocean is, where it's beautiful, there's a bunch of there's a whole area where people go to stand stones and they make sculptures out of them. So, you know, that might be a neat field trip for you and your folks to go if you need to get out. And so what I did is I did some stone standing, and since we're not together as a community of students, you're with your family, I kind of thought it would be neat to introduce the whole idea of standing stones, thinking about how each stone is different even though they're made of the same material, that each stone is very different in its shape and its weight and its texture and stuff. And so I did a little 15-minute or so video about standing sculptures on a little log I found down at the beach. But also it was kind of neat, and this is how I kind of work with some of the upcycled jewelry that you didn't see a lot of it, but these are some of the things that I found yesterday. Found a weird piece of plastic, must have come off of I have a feeling it went in to tie up lobster things, or, you know, something that would hold something to tether. It's a tethering tool, I would imagine, tethering piece of element, because it's got some metal in this. So this definitely was something that eventually wore off of a boat or a buoy or something. I found a really, really cool piece of bone. And I wanted to mention this because check out that surface, that texture. That's like a really cool texture. Maybe, and you look at that inside of that, you know, that's kind of really neat. You know, kids who carve stone with me, we've got to learn to hone stone and get a craftsmanship and learn the use of the tools in simple shape. But when we get back, or you can actually go probably over to Playtime or Michael's if they're open, or even order online. I'll come in a couple of days through Amazon, some soapstone, and you could carve yourself some stamps. Because I was thinking when we got back, and this was my idea for you guys, is learn to carve stone, and then we could use some of these pieces of stone, carve some designs into them, and stamp some patterns into our clay, or even our plaster that we're learning to carve. But what's kind of cool is you can do this make up some Play-Doh, make some flour and water, mix it together, do some shaping, then you could just cook it in the oven and have a weird little piece of bread. You know, I found these two things. These are kind of cool. I've used these before in bracelets and stuff, and these were definitely used on a boat or on a dock, so when boats come together or hit the dock that they're not going to disrupt. And what's really kind of neat, if you notice that, look at those textures. Imagine using this. I'll pull these screws out at some point and use it as a stamping in a piece of clay. That could be really kind of a neat idea. I could also cast this in plaster, right? Pour some, you know, grease it up maybe with some oil or you know, any kind of resist, and then I could make a mold of it, and I could actually start pouring clay into it. I could pour resin into it. I could, hey, you could make a shape out of this, press it into it, and then make some cookies with that pattern. So these sometimes I make into bracelets. This is kind of neat. I showed you some of my computer chip earrings with the sea glass. Here's another little piece of, obviously, a computer board that was worn down by the sun and bleached out. So that could become really something cool as far as a piece of ornamentation. When I go to flea markets, I always look for the crafts people who come out of Africa, South America, the Philippines, and just little places that everything's made of upcycled materials. You'll find that a lot in third world nations where they don't have eclairs to go to, you know what I mean? This is a really cool oyster shell. I mean, the light's kind of goofing it up a little bit, but that's got some beautiful textures. That's a nice little thing. You could wrap that with some metal, some little wire, and weave it, and we make little necklaces out of that. This is kind of cool thing. This is from an old broken up lobster shack. And I was kind of thinking, with this piece of rubber, this actually, what's so cool about it, I think it's from an old tire. It looks, I can tell, it kind of looks like it's from a tire. It says made in the USA on it. And so who knows, maybe I could weave this into it somehow, make a belt buckle or a strap or again a necklace or a bracelet or something. So we'll see. What I thought was also kind of cool is I found this little piece of red plastic. And so I thought, hey, it's HM time, baby. Oh, it's Vermont. Or is that New Hampshire? Is that Vermont or New Hampshire? Oh, now that'd be a cool project. Imagine trying to find all of the little shapes and then build a map out of them. Hey, everybody try and find a shape. If we get back to school, God willing, maybe we can make a map out of all of the recycled materials we find on the beach. That'd be awesome. Or on before you throw them in the Winchester dump. This is really kind of cool. This is a piece of plastic from a boat, a piece of fiberglass rather. You can tell just by the weave, and look at that weave. You know what this is going to remind you when you look at this weave, right? I want you to, because this was a factory pressed weave, and then it's added resin to make it hard for a boat. But you'll see some seaweed that I used in my video that's going to follow this introduction about what I collected, and you'll see that this weave here is almost identical to the weave that we saw in some of the seaweed that floated up on the beach. This is wicked cool side, because for those of you who know about the pottery, we have that thing called crazing when the glaze doesn't quite fit the body, and in that ancient Japanese technique which we've turned into a modern decorative technique, it very much reminds me of raku. It also kind of reminds me of maybe Mr. Hackett's mapping project. Imagine if I'm up in a plane and I'm flying over the Midwest, and these are all little farmlands. So I could draw some crop circles on it or something. I don't know. This is the way I think. This is a piece of metal. Definitely was some sort of like piece that surrounded something and bonded something to hold something, maybe a railing from a boat or something. I definitely can hammer that out if I want and shape it. Maybe I'll, already it can be a groovy thing, This is amazing. I'm going to try and hold this up. I don't know how well this camera works. This is a piece of seaweed. So let's see how close we can get and see that structure. If we had a macro lens, you could, it gets a little foggy. You could literally see the cellular structures within there. And, oh, it's just amazing. So if you looked at this, it actually kind of reminds me of my daughter has snakes, and it was kind of cool once when she sent me a picture of the snake skin. I took a quick, really tight macro photograph of it, and I cropped it so no one knew it was snake skin, and I put it out on the Facebook, and I was like, what do you think this is? And I even remember showing it to some kids, and they all thought the structure of the snake skin were arches, a series of arches to some sort of medieval castle, and I was like, no, it's a snake skin. So, the artists know this. They know about the mathematical and the fractal structure of the way the planets and the universe is designed. I think the reason we can do science is because it's understandable, because it's structural. And so just about everything we do, we look, even all the pharmaceutical stuff that we're making in the synthetic realm. Before they had that, they were using herbs. So a lot of the things that we use for healing in the pharmaceutical industry are derivatives, are synthetics, of what we find in nature. So that's kind of cool, huh? Imagine taking photographer, going in there and really digging around. I remember a few years ago we had some macro or stereoscopic microscopes, and I think they might even have them up in the science lab now. If they do, ask Mr. Marshon and some of the folks up there if you could figure out how to get the software in there, and we can really look at the cellular structures of these things. One of my former students, Leo Farmer, massive, wild guitar player. A lot of the teachers will remember him because he was definitely a kid who had his own mind. But his dad invented a microscope that studies DNA, and it's used in all of the labs around the world. And I think he had a high school education and worked with some other people who had access to brilliance, and they put these teams together, and now they're using that to study the DNA and study these deep structures of the human form. And if you type in Leo Farmer, you probably get his music, which is awesome, but you could also maybe type in Leo Farmer, because he's named after his dad, stereoscopic microscopes for DNA, and you can see some of the photographs. One of his other brothers, gosh, I apologize, I'm forgetting his name right now. He actually produced beautiful photographs that were like stunning of the insides of our stuff. That was cool. This is a really kind of weird little thing. I don't know what the heck I would do with this, but it's just kind of cool in itself. Maybe I would, I don't know. They could just be for inspiration. Oh, I could pull all these out, make one of my little people sculptures that I make, and make this like the stepping stone. Oh, a hopscotch. Who knows? I don't know. And here's another just piece of plastic. So, those are some of the things that I found on the beach yesterday in videos to come. I'm going to try and set up a camera in such a way that I can talk about how to build and how to drill, and and how to make, assemble things together. Like I'll show you one little movie. I'll be right back. Yeah, this little guy. This is one of my favorite things I made. I don't really want to sell it, so I have it in my house. It says Rockport, Mass. And these are all little things that I found on the beach. And he's kind of like a little jetty dude walking around. That's some of the rope, little strings that we use for our bracelets. These are just little pieces of plastic, glass. And then, of course, I like to kind of get a little more control, so I made a little fish in there, get little shells. This right here is reminds me of the lobster shacks that they have. And there's a little... It's a nightlight, because, sometimes people are like, what the heck am I going to do with this? When I buy it, the battery's out. But I put the little light in there, so I made things like this where people can buy them, and if they can use it, the whole idea of a functional piece. So that right there is a little night light, so at night you could turn it on and have a little groovy thing. It's also kind of fun to do for night lights, right? I mean, you can do tissue paper, anything. You go to the store and you buy those things you plug in, that light up your hallway, and they look green and ugly and boring. Why don't you take that thing apart and get some tissue paper, get some broken glass, get some plastics from your Dunkin' cups, paint them with watercolor, and you can make your own groovy little night light for your room. Bang! Easy. Way better than iPhone games. But I grew up without the iPhone games, so we had Skittleball. And all right, so anyways, there you go. I'm going to shut this part of the video down, and hopefully if I get this whole iMovie together and learn and begin weaving some of my ideas in, I will I'll put it all together. Oh, it's really kind of cool, kids. You might want to get, because as I collect things, I'm not too sure what I'm going to do with them. So I have these glass jars, and I just like to put those all rose petals and shells and stuff. So I can kind of roll it around and find stuff that I want. Hey, ships in a bottle. I've always wanted to do ships in a bottle. So, maybe you can find a glass jar and just think about, go on YouTube and look for, how to make a shipinabottle.com or whatever on YouTube, and you'll find it. I got tons of these things. And what's so cool about these glass jars? I'm just showing you. You know where I got them? They threw them out in the Winchester High School when they rebuilt the place. These were all in the science department, and that's different. They had different needs, so they got rid of them. This is kind of cool. This is a lens from when we got the new technologies and the whiteboards. They were tossing out all of opaque projectors, you know, from the olden days where they put a little piece of plastic down and they shoot up the light on the wall. Well, I was like, I'm not letting that go. So I have tons of these. I ripped them all apart. I pulled them out of the dumpster, tore them all apart, and I've shot photography through these. This is all dirty because it's been sitting in water, and actually I held this up once in a photograph and it looked like I was holding the moon. That's kind of cool. So, you know, there's potential out there. Oh, just so you know, that deflocculated slip I was talking about, I showed you. This is deflocculated slip. I don't know what I'll use it for, but I took fabric, really thin lace, little sticks and little things I find on the beach, and I dip them in the deflocculated slip. Then when I cook it up, all the original objects disappear and it becomes hardened. So that was actually, I got an idea out of a guy, Bernard Palissy. He was this dude in I think the turn of the 1900s, where he was casting animals into clay. You can find some of it at the Museum of Fine Arts. That's like a little broken piece of my pottery, but I didn't want to throw it out. It was like I was making these little vases and kind of letting it go. Actually, what's kind of cool about these was I'm a wicked tight freak when it comes to my pottery. You've probably seen that. I like craftsmanship, and I always think that I kind of choke the heck out of them. Sometimes, like, oh man, that pot looks so good, but it feels constipated. It doesn't have any emotion. So one day I was out here demonstrating on the bearskin neck, and I was just throwing and tapping and letting that sort of organic thing happen. And you know what's so cool about it? The thing I did in this series, a guy came by, he was from Dubai, and he saw one of these and he was like, I want that for my daughter's wedding. So that's kind of cool. You know, you think it's got to be all this and this and tight and stuff, but this was it had gesture and personality, and I think that's what appealed to him. Oh, there's one last thing I do want to show you. I forgot. This is kind of cool. See, right as I was leaving the beach, I found these little berries that had been all dried out, and I'm thinking I might dip them in resin, make some earrings, or earrings and a set of bracelets out of them. Oh, also, be careful. You can cut yourself when you're working. I cut myself yesterday. All right. I'll see you on the other side of this. Take a break, and maybe I can show you what I did on the beach. Peace, love, done. All right. Hey, kids. How you doing? I'm down on the beach. Did a couple-mile walk with my wife. She's over there collecting some sea glass. This is down off of Marmion Way. So I had this idea, right? Well, you know how you're all with your family, and I was thinking about how we're family, right? So I'm thinking, looking at these rocks, and I'm thinking they're kind of all got different shapes. And I was thinking about how, you know, in photography, I'm going to observe it visually. I could always crop this video and turn something into a photograph and use them for a painting idea. But I'm going to check something out. We're going to see what this is a real tradition. Standing stones. So you see them all over the world, where people use them as markers for walking. When I was in the Andes Mountains hiking, I tell you, without those stones somewhere, I would have been lost. Actually, we did get lost for a couple of days. It wasn't until a kid came by in a donkey. It was like, hey, gringos, ¿dónde vas? And we were like, Machu Picchu. He's like, Machu Picchu's ahí, no. So he turned us around. So anyways, I'm going to set this up, and we're going to do a little something. I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to do it anyways. Let's see, we'll get that like that. Ooh, with the island in the back, that's nice. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, okay. So, you know, everything's like balanced, right? Ooh, that's a pretty one. It's got some luck. So, let's say we're a family, right? And we all have our own personality. And we all, you know, it's funny. You know, when you're putting you're making your bedroom and you want to put your bed somewhere, and there's a right place for something and there's a wrong place. Let's see where that goes. Did that go in there? Yeah, that's it. So there's certain things, certain places, there's a place for everything, and everything is place. So when you stand in stones, there's just, sometimes they just lock in super nice. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Let's see where this one can go. So there's a right place for everything, and everything in its place. So if you get honest with yourself, you'll find your spot, you know what I mean? I noticed that when you guys come in the classroom, you have to sit in a certain spot. Ooh, there's a right spot for everything, and then sometimes I go, hey, get out of there because you're not using that spot right, get over there.
You know, like sometimes you guys just sit around and get nothing done. So I'm like, hey, go over there. You're not getting nothing done. So there's a right place for everything and everything in its place. So let's see. Sometimes, you know, it's almost like that when you're watching a movie with your friends and you just sit on that couch and you vie for that spot where you want to sit. You guys do it in your lunchroom and stuff too. It's not the right spot for that. Maybe he's upside down. Maybe he was standing on his head. I've done that before. It's actually how I, oh, there we go. It's how I smack I was trying to stand on my head. Oh, look at that nice little round one. And isn't it interesting how everything is, like, this beach is filled with rocks and they all kind of have a similar character. And I think that's kind of like human beings. We look for things that are comfortable and similar, you know, something that we can identify with. And I think that's part of our problem. Like, whoa, as a species, that we're always looking for the, like, I call it likes like. You know, when I was a kid, I hung out with the skateboarders because I was a skateboarder. So if I went somewhere, Harvard Square, whatever, and I saw a kid with a skateboard, I would just naturally walk up and talk to him. And he would be willing to talk to me. Can you see that one there? So it's the same thing. So I think what we need to do is look for those things that we have in common, right? How's that looking? Yeah, like we haven't, is that one there? Can you see that one? Yeah. So I can't go beyond that. So we look for things that we have in common, right? And it's funny because soldiers in war, they all wear the same uniform, they all get the same haircut, because they're not supposed to have an individuality. They're supposed to just be a team of warriors, you know what I mean? The same with a football team, you know? You don't want to be identified as an individual, you want to be part of a team. Ooh! You want to be part of a team, right? So, but the interesting thing is, we all got certain personalities, and when I think about the rocks, I think about how they have, they're all unique. You know what I mean? How do you know that that a stick is crooked? Because there's a straight stick. You know, so we'll put the straight stick up there. You know, and that's sort of, the straight stick is going to be something that marks, like, the perfection of us. You know, that's perfection, right? It's perfectly straight. And that's a soldier. Totally, boom, locked down. No one, you don't want any individuality, because then that gets trouble when you're not listening. Everybody's got to act as a unit. And then, what's so interesting about families, you know, is we would all have individualities, but some families have the capacity to call other people into their family. Isn't that cool? And you know, the way I work is it's called adoption, and we get adopted as sons into the family, and so we do look for those ones that look different than us. And I think in our culture, well, I shouldn't say in our culture, in our humanity, sometimes we don't want to adopt people into our family because they're different than us. But I found that brick, right? And I'm like, man, that's a totally different, that was made in a totally different place, right? So I thought, wouldn't it be cool to make a sculptural little family of rocks that have the concept of adoption locked down in it? A little soldier boy fell over. Got to find a little piece of hole there. And that's what's so beautiful about humanity, because we can be kind of punks, you know, we can do the wrong things like I was saying, but if we think about ourselves as all part of the same family of human beings, you know, we're all sons of the Creator, that it's our job, when we realize that we're all sons and it doesn't matter what we look like, that we should all be looking and bringing people into our family. And so I'm kind of like trying to illustrate that. And then you get like the crazy ones, like the ones that got holes in them, you know, and they look really weird. Like, we all got holes in our heart. So where can we put this one? It's a little shell. We'll rest that little area right there. And it's very sparkly, it's a little wet. So we'll just dial, you know, we'll dial that up. And then what's also kind of cool, I'm thinking, and this is all just in my head, and this is the way I roll. I'm looking at all this cool seaweedy stuff. Look at that, that's all, like, that's purple. Look at that lavender color. So because we're all just rocks, you know, it's funny because we're all made of the earth, right? So we all want to, there's this guy I love, his name's Ravi Zacharias. He's an Indian guy, but he moved to Canada. He does something called apologetics, and he once was talking about how we all get up in the morning, and I see that with me and you, and we all do it. We all born naked, right? And then he says, as we get up and go into the world, we all put on our various forms of what do you call it? Our various forms of being deformed or something. Like we code ourselves with these illusions through our costumes that we put on, and we try, and that's somewhat kind of like being noticed. So we need a little bit of bling, right? Some people call it the bling. So we'll put some bling on there. Here's some little yellow bling. Ooh, a little. Let's see, what else can I find? Oh, look at this crazy. Oh my Lord, look at this. Oh yeah. Oh, see, now sometimes we get caught in the web, and we don't want to get caught in the web. But isn't that crazy? That just. See, I really believe that there's a place for everything and everything in its place, and that means you too. So don't everybody, no matter what's going on, you may feel like this sometimes, all crazy, but if you went in on a microscopic level, in a macro level, you'd see the fractals, you'd see the perfect formation of this. This is like, it's laid down just nicey nice, just like a weaving, So we're gonna doll this place up with a little bit of weaving, because we need a little bit of bling in our thing, right? And then let's see, this isn't look at that. That came out of the ocean on the planet. It almost looks like skin, Ooh. And this Papa dude over here, the big old boy, he needs to get to the gym. We'll dial him up. And look at this one. This he's totally attached. He's like clinging on to dear life to stuff. So we're gonna dial this. We'll call this one a headdress. Whoa, come on, baby. We'll put a little, I remember when I used to go to church with my grandmother, way back when, my grandparents and stuff, they'd put on a little pill hat or something. We all want our little dun-dun-dun-duns, That's what I always call it, dun-dun-dun-dun. Well, maybe we could just stand that up. Maybe we'll call that that's our sculpture in the family. We got one of our weird kids are making art, and he's like, look what I made. Postmodern. What's that? Upside? That's not working too good. We're gonna doll this up. So anyways, what I'm doing here is just having fun, experimenting. But I grew up in the generation that didn't have phones. So your parents kicked you out of the house and they said, go outside. Come in when it's dark. And I tell you, that was a blessing, quite honestly. Because I'd rather be outside than staring. It's so interesting. I don't think we were given thumbs to just do this. We were given thumbs so we can hold on to things and build things. So I think it's important to use your thumbs for more than just gaming, because oh, look at this. That's gonna come out of the shell. Ooh, that's cool. That's sweet, man. I wish I had my big camera with me. I would take a picture of that. And then what else could I do? That might be. Oh, let's see. Oh, I'm just loving this. Look at that. Huh? That's sweet. Imagine like taking this, right, and laying it out with some glues on a piece of paper, and then press it down or something, and then roll some ink on it, and then press it with some color, with some paper, or a T-shirt. Wonder what that would look like if you put ink on it and put a T-shirt on and just rubbed. Or what if you took something like this and rubbed it into clay or plaster? Remember I was telling you guys about plaster. You can just go to the hardware store and buy some plaster. You guys know how to mix it up. My sculpture kids, we mixed plaster the other day. Okay, well, we're gonna give our little, let's move this out of the way. We're gonna give my little adopted child a little, what's that called when you put it around you? A shawl? We'll give you a little shawl. And we're gonna give, ooh, this is, thank goodness, look at that. Oh, we're dolling this Larry right up sweet. So anyways, this is our little family. And actually this little one, this one, that's the baby. That kid just got adopted. So, and it needs help, so it has to be carried. So we're gonna put this on the older child. Could be a boy or a girl, it could be a brother or sister, it doesn't matter. But it needs a little help. because he can't walk in. So we'll put that there. So anyways, we're staying home with our family, so I thought, oh, a shell. And another, okay, this could be, all right, this one's a musician. That's a flute. All right, so we'll put this one over here, because this one's, this one's, he's got a flute right there. We'll put the flute right there. We'll call him Pan, for pan flute. And that's another little shell, so I think this big old boy needs a little, he needs a little hairdo. All right, what else can I get? Do a quick little look around. Oh, you know what? I found this other cool thing. I'm gonna make this when I get home. I'm gonna use this. Can anybody guess what that is? It's a piece of a tire. It even says "Made in USA." Oh, you know, I just saw that Tom Hanks movie when he finds the sail, that plastic thing. What does he say? Bakersville, Bakersville. This thing comes up on the island from Bakersville. It's like I think from an old outhouse or something, or a place where you go to the bathroom. If you're outside and you got like the beach or something. What are they called? Oh! See, this one's getting feisty because it's got vibe, man. So let's see. So a place for everything and everything in its place, and that means you. It's funny. I think it's got to stand in that little creek. Hey, you know what? Maybe sometimes you're just gonna lean on somebody. See that? That's so cool. Oh, what's this? Okay, look at that. Check that out, huh? Got a little shell, but look at that's a little mussel. You know, some of the mussels are bigger ones I have. I've opened up the mussel, paint on the back side of it, right? On the inside of it, just paint like some clouds. Then I take that colored resin that they make for the dining room table. Some of you guys know about it in the art department. We use it. You pour a little bit of resin, just a little layer. Then you paint another layer. Let it dry. Pour another layer of resin. Let it dry. Pour another layer of resin. Paint it. Pour another layer of resin. And then what happens is you get this three-dimensional painting. But we'll call that one Clamzo, me boy. Clamzo. That's from Arlo Guthrie. Clamzo, me boys, Clamzo. So that's gonna be like, oh, that's cool. He's like a cousin. So anyways, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Go out and make something weird and share it with me.